Good morning. On behalf of the Center for the Study of Ethics, I would like to welcome you to our 28th Annual Environmental Ethics Symposium. My name is Brian Birch. I serve as Director of the Ethics Center here at UVU, and we're delighted to have you join us for this virtual symposium. Obviously, we would like to host this event in person and have face-to-face dialogue, but we're trying to do our part along with other entities on campus to keep everybody healthy and safe. This event has been hosted by the Ethics Center, as I mentioned, for 28 years. Each year we choose a different theme to orient our attention around issues related to sustainability, environmental ethics, climate change, a number of issues that help us think about the impact we have on the environment and how we approach that as human beings. Our theme this year is women, gender, and the environment. And I would like to thank everyone who was involved in organizing this symposium. We have a terrific committee. A special shout out to them, along with our student interns and other staff and faculty who are involved in this. This symposium is named after our beloved friend and colleague, Dr. David Keller, who served as director of the Ethics Center from 1999 until his untimely death in 2013. And as many who are watching this know, David was a champion of environmental ethics. That was his area of specialization. He's the person that really shepherded this symposium and developed our environmental studies programming here at UVU, and is someone who we want to honor. And so we recognize David's family here today, and we want to thank them for their support and efforts in helping to sustain this symposium and other programming that we do. So without further ado, I would like to turn the time over to Hilary Hungerford, who is going to introduce our first session, and off we go. And we hope you can join us throughout the day for panel discussions and lectures and other sessions. So Hilary, take it away.
Great, thank you so much. Good morning, welcome, happy October 20th to everyone in YouTube land and everyone on Zoom with me this morning. So I have the privilege and honor of starting us off this year for our Environmental Ethics Symposium. We have a fantastic lineup, so come as much as you can during the day or catch up later. So as Brian mentioned, our theme this year is women, gender, and the environment, and we have some really exciting guests this morning. We have some next generation future leaders of sustainability from across the state of Utah. So I'm going to pass the time to them, just briefly do some introductions, and they'll say a little bit about how they got interested in these issues. And then we'll have some question and answer time. I guess maybe I should introduce myself too. I'm Hilary Hungerford. I am an associate professor in Department of Earth Science at UVU. I'm a geographer by training, and I work a lot on issues of community adaptation to environmental change in a number of different contexts. Okay, so I'll have Aarushi start. Good morning. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Hilary. My name is Aarushi Verma. My pronouns are she, her. I'm currently a freshman at the University of Utah studying economics and international studies. I guess I first got into sustainability. I guess my family has always been pretty aware about being resourceful kind of in our household. Both of my parents are from India. And so just being very efficient with the things we have is something that was kind of ingrained into me from a very young age. So when I was in high school, I think one of the first sustainable projects I ever pursued was preventing food waste, because that was a really big thing that was stressed in our house kind of growing up. So I currently do some work for the nonprofit Wasteless Solutions here. They basically work to divert food that is going to be going to waste at restaurants, events, catering companies, things like that. So I work on that aspect. And then I also work in education. So I help run their social media account. And I've done a little bit of work creating like a guidebook for youth and things like that. I guess my most recent project has been trying to get Granite School District here to transition to 100% clean energy, which is a project that Muskan is also involved in for Davis School District. But essentially what we're trying to do is get the district to commit to a resolution and to kind of create a culture of sustainability in education systems and schools, because that's something that's really important to kind of instill that into youth from a young age. Not to mention that a lot of Granite School District does cover areas of like individuals under the poverty line. And so it's much more impactful to get the district to transition. But yeah, that's all for me. I'll pass it over to Muskan.
Great, thank you so much. Yes, Muskan, take it away.
Thanks, Hilary. Thanks, Aarushi. Yes, my name is Muskan, and I use the she, her pronouns. I'm currently a sophomore at the University of Utah studying math and philosophy, and I'm just really grateful to be in this conversation today. I am currently the student lead of the 100% Clean Energy campaign in Davis School District. And really that was like my first effort into sustainability, which is like really just crazy to say. But it was really like a kind of a great story on how the campaign came into fruition in Davis School District. So that's my local school district. And when I graduated in 2020, I did this program over the summer that really highlighted the climate crisis, and more importantly, it highlighted what my role is in the climate crisis. And a couple weeks into the program, I was scrolling on Instagram, good old Instagram, and I saw that one of my friends had posted that the 100% clean energy resolution had been passed in Salt Lake City School District. And I'd seen her posting about it for a few months. But I never was like, I can't do this in Davis School District. I never felt capable. But after doing this program, I, acknowledged my role and my relationship to the climate crisis, and kind of wanted to speak up for my community and the well-being of my community. And so I direct messaged her, and she provided me the contact information to the Sierra Club Utah chapter. And I launched the campaign in the summer of 2020 and have been able to learn and collaborate with such a great group of people. And so, the campaign right there it's really great because our district is the second largest in Utah, and it already is a leader on climate action. And so this resolution, we're hoping just to collaborate with the school district and just fortify this leadership that our district has developed. And we have students that represent, freshman college all the way to 7th graders, parents, students, teachers. So that's a very unique thing of our team. And yeah, I mean, again, as Aarushi mentioned, it's such a great opportunity for school districts to expand on equity and save money, and integrate climate curriculum into the education of students. The other project that I am currently working on is with UYES, which is Utah Youth Environmental Solutions Network. And we are working on developing a climate justice curriculum for youth activists across Utah. And, the intent is that we provide training and resources and mentorship for young people to be able to organize in their communities. And kind of just restructure this narrative of what a youth activist is in environmentalism and what they look like. And this curriculum is going to explore identity with these youth and the systems that we're in, and how to reimagine these systems and community action that they can take. So that's a little bit about me, and I will go ahead and pass it on to Chloe.
That's great. Thanks so much. Chloe.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, there's so much light behind me, so it's hard to see. My name's Chloe. My pronouns are she, her. I'm I think technically a junior at UVU, but class-wise, I'm a sophomore. I'm studying biology. I also originally kind of got into sustainability more through a political outlet. My original major was political science, but the more I learned, the more I just wasn't as into strongly the political side, and I started to learn more about the biological and more of the science side. And I thought it was a perfect fit for me for trying to help improve our global sustainability and helping the environment. So for me, it was more of the biological side. So that's what I'm studying now. I started off as a fellow at the Center for Social Impact on campus, and we led a variety of programs and projects, including Make a Difference Day, where we just gather volunteers to help out with a variety of projects, one of those being a community garden in our local community in the Orem Provo area. We also led a collaboration with the campus's Native Initiative, and that was amazing, where we tried extending, it's not quite as sustainability related, but we extended information on financial aid to Native high school students coming into Utah, to trying to navigate that portion of college. And then after that, that kind of led to me doing some field work with the Utah's Division of Wildlife. So I went out and did a bunch of plant samples in the hot summer, this last summer. And that led to my current scholarship with the National Science Foundation and UVU STEM program. So I'm collaborating with a variety of professors to choose one as a mentor, and from there we'll begin a research project. And mine has primarily been focused on animal behavior or ecosystems. So we've been looking more at the effects of ants with fires has been a potential one, as well as issues with the Great Salt Lake. So mine has been all over the place. But this is where I'm at here. I've always cared about sustainability. It's just, I guess, been trying to find a way to, I don't know, there's so many paths to get involved with sustainability. So this is the one I've settled on. That's me.
That's great. It's okay to have lots of interests. Bless you. So what I really like about what we've talked about so far is just how many different ways there are to get involved in sustainability issues or environmental issues, whether it's from a science side, social science, physical science, economics, or whether it's more organizing and outreach to youth. There's just so many ways to still be engaged and still making progress towards a more just future. So I really appreciate you kind of modeling all these different ways for our viewers. So I just have a few questions, and then for those who are joining us on YouTube, please also feel free to ask any questions in the chat, and then we will make sure our speakers have them. So the first question I have is just if you could share any challenges you've had as a youth activist or a kind of a youth organizer of environmental issues, and what opportunities you've had to. So challenges and opportunities of being a youth environmental activist. Whoever wants to go can start.
I can start with that one and then pass it on. I think probably one of the biggest challenges in being a youth activist is probably not being taken seriously, especially by older individuals. I think, for example, especially when I was working on the 100% clean energy campaign for Granite School District, it's really easy for people to say that, oh, you're just a kid, you don't understand how financials work, it's like you don't understand that it's not within our budget, or you're out of touch with reality, things like that. And I think in a way, those comments are valid in a sense, but I think they're valid in a good way, in that I think youth have like a really great opportunity to imagine things outside of like a structure that's already built. I think perhaps when you're older, it's not as easy to envision things apart from how they already are. And so I think that's kind of one of our biggest assets, is that we can picture a different system or a different world where things do occur in a more efficient or sustainable way. So I would say that that's, I think, one of the challenges and the opportunity that I found from it. And then I would just say that the second is like burnout. I did step down from the project that I was working on with Granite School District, largely because I really did feel like I couldn't keep going and working on that. And so I think the opportunity that comes out of that is that I've met a lot of different people who, after I did step down from that, reached out to me and really did try to like build me up in a really good way. And so I think the community that you get from just working in anything sustainable is really, really huge, because it is kind of a grueling process.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Yeah, changing systems is turns out to be hard, exhausting work. And I think you're exactly right that you have to, take care of yourself and find ways to make yourself sustainable. So I'm glad that you learned that lesson early on. Thanks for sharing. Muskan or Chloe, do you have any thoughts on that? Being a youth activist? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I really just resonate with everything Aarushi said, and just remembering that self-care aspect. Like, you have to have your own cup filled. I think that another challenge that I faced when I entered this space so new and, like as a freshman in college, was that I was very afraid to talk to people because I felt like I didn't know anything. I didn't know the answers. And that was kind of very debilitating to me. And it kind of hindered a lot of progress, because I was so afraid to talk to these people who I felt like were doing this as careers for forever. And it took me a long time, and it took me efforts to lean on my mentors and my community, and constantly reminding myself that all of us are really navigating and learning this space together, to just kind of own that I don't know all the answers, but that I can get back to you and figure out the answers. And, the opportunity that comes from that is like remembering that education is such a prodigious force. It's really like the root of what cultivates change, and, the foundation of our future. And that's it. Education was why I kind of got into community organizing. And, I've seen that within the team in Davis, is that we have such a wide age gap, and there's a lot of intergenerational collaboration that's occurring within the team. And so it's been a weird situation to kind of navigate, meeting every team member where they're at, and creating a very supportive environment for them where we can all continually learn from each other. But it's also the most fulfilling thing when you see like a 7th grader gain the confidence to finally talk about the campaign on their own and make graphics for Instagram. And it's a great reminder that the characteristics that have divided us, that's age and gender and race, these are things that are really unifying the 100% Clean Energy team in Davis School District. And it's just so special and rewarding to see these sparks through education. So I would say that that's kind of the challenge, but then there's a flip side of the opportunity that comes when you can learn from it.
Nice. Thanks so much for sharing that. It's very hard to feel out of place. So I'm glad you were able to find connection in place. Oh, and for those on YouTube, I was wrong. There's a link where you can go to our website and post questions, but the link should be there, or it'll be posted soon in the chat area. So Chloe, go ahead.
Man, I think they really said it all. Both of what you said really resonated. I think not being taken seriously because of your age, but and even the burnout part has truly been difficult. I think it's like people are calling it FOMO or something, fear of missing out, or FOBO, like fear of better options. And I think despite all of those struggles, there is so much opportunity out there that it can be pretty overwhelming. And I think that's been one of my main struggles as well, has been seeing all of the areas that I can get involved in and realizing that I still only have 24 hours in a day, and some of those should maybe go towards sleeping and eating. So I think a lot of it has also been challenging my time management. And because with sustainability and working in sustainability, it's a long lasting thing. It's, of course, you have various projects throughout the process, but it's long term. And typically the projects in sustainability and sustainable development those projects also tend to be long term. So signing up, kind of committing my time to a few things and signing up for what I know I have the capacity for has been challenging. Letting things go has been the challenging part of that. But I think one of my mentors said to me, because I've been trying to come up with a research question for my research project that will carry me through the rest of my undergrad. And I kept thinking like too big of a project. My mentors kept telling me, Chloe, this is a PhD kind of project. This is not for 2 years of your undergrad. You don't have that kind of time. We don't have that kind of funding. So, and she kind of reminded me, she was like, Chloe, we can't solve all of the world problems with just this project. And so I think that kind of hit me, because I think I kept looking for that project that would just blow the world's mind and, help us towards at least one aspect of fixing or improving our sustainability and our biodiversity. But even if I came up with just like the golden project that opened doors and was totally new, even that there's so many things out there that there's no way to save the world and with one thing one day. And so kind of having that grace, I guess, is what I'm trying to say with yourself, kind of similar to the concept on burnout, realizing that there is only so much you can do and to make sure that you're taking care of yourself so that you can keep going in the long run.
Thank you all so much. It's a marathon, right? This kind of work. So yeah, you got to stop at the drink station sometimes. So we have a question from the audience here, which is, what kind of skills and knowledge do you feel are important for young people to enter the space? So if you meet some young people who want to get involved, what would you say are the skills or knowledge that they should start building?
I think kind of what's been the biggest thing for me is having the knowledge that I'm allowed to take space. I think that's something that a lot of youth like really pull away from. I think especially when we were talking about the concept of like feeling like debilitated because you don't know enough, or just feeling like there are other people in the room that are more qualified than you. I think the biggest thing that's helped me and that I try to tell other people is that just take up room and, be like very, very present with your knowledge. What Muskan said earlier about not knowing everything, I think that's a really big point, because a lot of people, we're all learning in this together. A lot of us have specialties in like different areas of knowledge. And so just the idea that, it's okay to not know everything and to just go with what you do know and then be like very, very upfront with that, I think is a really big thing.
I love that, Aarushi. I think I want to kind of separate into like two different skills. One, I would say, is just being vulnerable. I think that that's kind of the way that we, like, connection is a really big thing in environmentalism. And I would say that connection is even more important than like having like insane research skills or like knowing all these data and statistics, because ultimately like the audience that you're talking to is going to, they're going to feel, they're going to feel your story and your vulnerability. They're not going to feel like the number 56%. So I would say that being able to lean on what makes you human, and that vulnerability thing that kind of connects us all is so important. And with vulnerability, kind of tying in what Aarushi said, is just questioning everything that is around you and kind of having faith in the process, even though it's like a scary and uneasy thing to do. And then I would say like a formal skill would be practicing your communication skills. Being in the team, we've had the opportunity to talk to people, from Salt Lake and from Davis County and other areas in Utah that kind of have differing belief systems. And we've had to adjust the way that we talk about the campaign and the different benefits that can come, because the benefits span a wide range. And so the things that we choose to focus on really we have to cater to our audience. And so knowing, like reading the situation and understanding how you can communicate to people your research or your statistics or your personal story based on their level of education or their belief system that they are basing their questions off of is really critical. And the way that you can really practice that is diversifying the people that you surround yourself with, and having them question you based on their belief system that is different from yours.
I love that last part, Muskan. I think those skills are truly important. And I do wish that we had more communication with sustainability. I do think too many people are afraid of, not feeling like they completely understand everything that's going on in a sustainability concept. I would say, I guess the only other thing that I would add is if someone is interested in gaining more knowledge on the sustainability or environmental topic that they're interested in, scientific papers are so hard, and they're not for everyone. They're really difficult to read, but I subscribe to it's called Science Daily, and they have just kind of these short science news essentially, and there's everything from like more social sciences to sustainability, and like marine biology, physics, you name it, everything science in the world, and it references studies, but it's written a bit more like just kind of a short news article. And so I found that a lot easier to digest, to stay up to date and current on issues and various findings in the world. And it's a bit more digestible than like reading a scientific paper, but it allows you to kind of gain more exposure to that side of things.
That's great. I'm glad you brought that up. And I also don't often read scientific papers for fun. Sorry. So I was going to ask you all actually what sorts of news sites or even like what people on Instagram do you like that speak to you about environmental issues or just like really interesting things, or TikTok channels or whatever. I know one of my favorite Instagram pages or sites, I'm so old, I don't even know how to say it, Instagram people, is Intersectionalist Environmentalist. I think that's what it's called. It's so great because I think one thing we've really realized over the past 10 years, and I think you all have touched on this morning too, that it's not just about environmental issues, it's the intersections with social issues, with political issues. You can't solve climate change or even just environmental degradation without also thinking about environmental justice, without thinking about the people, who don't have maybe the time or luxury to have different choices around them. So if you wouldn't mind sharing your favorite sites, channels, whatever it is, we can just kind of start sharing some resources.
Cool. So I have two. The first is an Instagram handle and it's called The Trash Walker. And I've been following her for some time, but basically it's this individual who will basically dive into the trash cans of like stores or companies or like behind departments and just find everything that they've been wasting or things that they deliberately damage and throw away and kind of expose them on her Instagram. And I really liked watching kind of the stuff that she finds because it just goes to show how many things with small defects are thrown away that could really be better used in a different place, or how many things are deliberately destroyed just so other people can't resell them, and how that's the nature of, you know, the economy and the society that we are in. And so that's been very, very insightful. And she kind of goes to show that she'll often take things home and or donate them and show how they're being put to better use than just the landfill. So that's a very, very good site. And then the second is a brand I actually like just started following, but it's called Sui, which means needle in Hindi. But that's a brand that basically focuses on sustainable clothing and sustainable fashion. And I'm somebody who really likes dressing up and being fashionable. And so following a brand that focuses on, you know, producing their fabrics in a really kind of efficient manner. And it also focuses on issues of like who they're employing. They're very transparent about who they employ, how much they're paying them, and just the nature of the work environment that they've created in terms of creating this whole fashionable brand. So that's another really good one, I think.
That's great. Thanks. I actually just discovered the trash walker today on TikTok. They had a video about Coach purses, how they like slash them before they put them in the dumpster. And yeah, so I'm going to watch some more. Thanks for sharing that. Muskan, do you have any favorites?
Yeah, well, first, gosh, I wish I was on TikTok. I need to like get better at that so I can look at this girl. I've got two. So my first one is it's called, I think it's called Feed the Planet. And basically it takes photos of you know, in different places around the world. It takes photos of people like harvesting the food that we get to eat here. So they have like photos of what goes into getting the rice on your table or the wheat or like the cashews, which is like, I don't know, takes things kind of out of, or more in focus, I guess. And then the other one, I believe is called like the waste guide or the zero waste guide. And that account, so it's kind of funny because they like take the things, you know, like old bananas, like what you can do with old bananas or carrots. And it's really fun because I live with my roommates who are like so good about that. And they like see something that was thrown in the garbage and they pick it up and they like make some fabulous dish out of it. So it's fun to like live that in real life and learn from them. And then the other one that's just kind of more broad is like the people I like, my friends that I follow on Instagram. They always share things on their stories of little unique accounts that I would have never imagined, of little infographics. So that's really fun to just follow my friends on Instagram as well and see that they're using social media as such like a great thing.
Nice. That's so great. I thought we lost you, Chloe, but it looks like you're back. So that's good.
I know, I hit a magic button, I guess.
So we're still on the Instagram. If you have any folks on Instagram that you follow for like environment sustainability stuff, besides UVU sustainability, you should all follow UVU sustainability.
I also love intersectional environmentalists. Is that what it is? Environmentalism. And then there's another one called Atmos that I really love. And they kind of also talk about the intersection between culture and society and environment. And they have a lot of really cool stuff. Science Daily, like I mentioned before, and then a few documentaries, I guess. My octopus teacher was actually really good, kind of a strange title, but it was good. And then Before the Flood, I really liked.
That's great. Aarushi, were you going to comment on my octopus teacher?
Oh, so I saw it like a few months ago. It is a really good documentary. It kind of made me cry at the end.
Yeah, yes, it's so good.
Yeah, I guess just the basic premise of it is an individual who follows, like lives near a shoreline, and he studies this octopus and just kind of its life cycles and develops like a really intimate connection with it. And it's just a really beautiful, true story. I would encourage everyone to watch it. Thank you for mentioning it, Chloe.
Yeah, it's super cool. I mean, he's not even like a scientist. He's just a filmmaker and just learns a lot.
That's great. Maybe if we have time, we can share other films or documentaries that we love, because that's a way to have fun. And yeah, thanks for sharing. I'll share another Instagram person that I follow, the Black Forager. She's amazing. She talks about, making food, like foraging food, but she also talks about intersections with race and sustainability and poverty. It's excellent. So we have another question from the YouTube audience. Thanks so much for participating out there in YouTube land. But what would you tell older generations about your work, or like what advice could you give to us older generations?
I think that one of the biggest things is, I think, just supporting the movements that go on. I think because a lot of young people do feel invalidated in just public spaces in general, having the support of people, of especially older individuals, and there are a lot of older individuals involved in sustainability as it is, but just them being advocates for like the larger movement as a whole that's run by a lot of youth, that's, I think, a huge benefit to us that is something that I really appreciate.
And I, just to add on to that, would say that like your involvement can totally like be a range of things. Within the team, obviously we have like teachers who can really help us with outreach and connecting to other students. And then we also have parents who can just like post our petition on their social media and reach out to their older friends and kind of connect us to the older audience. And yeah, I just, and then there's obviously like professionals in the field who can help with like writing emails or writing whatever needs to be written. So yeah, I would just say like the capacity that you get involved in, like all of it is really fabulous, and just signing a petition is really fabulous. I would also say that talking to your children or grandchildren about this and kind of like making it a generational thing is such a beautiful thing, and will contribute to the longevity of environmentalism and having folks, enter into the space at an earlier age. And then that kind of will gain a lot of skill for those people, for those children. So that's also very important.
Yeah, and I'll just add on, I think this can happen to anyone of any age, from any background, but I think it's easy to get a bit jaded and pessimistic about things. I know with my own family, things have just been a certain way for so long that the idea of something changing is either really scary or it's scary having change, or it's scary the potential of being let down, that something won't go through the way you thought it would or that you wanted it. And like I said, I think that's pretty relatable through a variety of ages and generations, but I've seen that a lot in my older family members. So I would probably just say being open to change, being open to the enthusiasm that youth typically brings with these things, and just encouraging it, because maybe we just need one really enthusiastic youth to kind of push through and break the ceiling.
Thank you for those on behalf of the older generation. Thank you very much. And I think a lot of us here are really excited about your work and excited about these new imaginings that young people have and helping us lead forward. But also, the burden can't all be on the youth. We have a responsibility as older generations, people who, have maybe a little different understanding or experience or, more contribution to some of these problems. We have a responsibility. So you're not alone. We are here also to support you. I see another question coming in from the audience that if you can just share some ideas of what success looks like for you in these different projects. So like, since environmental work is such a long-term project, like what does success look like for you? How do you measure success? How do you kind of keep yourself going and ensure, like, how do you measure progress, I guess?
There's kind of a story, I guess, with my answer, but like earlier this year, I had the opportunity to hear Gina McCarthy speak, who's the White House National Climate Advisor. And I was listening to her speak, and she was so enthusiastic. And it was like a Zoom speech too. And she was so enthusiastic about her work as like the White House National Climate Advisor and the changes she's going to make. And all of these different things. And I was sitting there and I was like, why is she so excited? Like, she's literally handling the national climate agenda. Isn't she like so overwhelmed and like so overburdened? But she was like genuinely so light and just like very enthusiastic about her work. And somebody posed a question to her. They were like, why are you so happy about everything that you're doing? And she kind of answered that something like the way her mindset is that she really does gain a lot of joy from the little steps that she makes, however minimal they may be. And that's actually something that I'm still really, really trying to do. I'm not good at it yet. When it comes to climate change and all of that in general, it's a really long goal. And once you do achieve something, a lot of times it's like, okay, now we have to achieve these next 10 things. But I think just taking time to celebrate each achievement is something that I really learned from her, and something that I'm trying to do is just like take time to celebrate and enjoy every step that you make. And then that'll make you feel worthy, and the work that you do feel worthy, and also make sure that you can keep going.
Nice. I love that. I'm a big fan too of celebrating even small things. It's so important. Crossing something off the to-do list is a moment for celebration for sure. Muskan or Chloe, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, totally. Those little steps for me within the current things that I'm doing is it's meeting those new people and finding supporters or people who are willing to open up to hear about your work. Sometimes it just seems like everything is in my head and no one really cares or wants to hear about it. And so when someone expresses some sort of interest, I'm like, yes, I can talk to you about this. And yeah, it's just so fun. Or when people like text you and say like, hey, what are you doing? Like, I'm really curious about this. That's so fun, because that means that more people are learning about it and are interested in it and want to find some sort of avenue to get involved in. I think that the biggest success for me is kind of seeing a spark ignited within other youth. I mentioned this earlier within, the youth that were on my team, but it's just like having that spark ignited with me from somebody that was older than me, a teacher that kind of explained the climate crisis, and then kind of being able to pass that along to other generations is so fun. And then being able to support whatever community action that they would like to pursue, and kind of connecting them to appropriate people or appropriate organizations, and kind of seeing them blossom is definitely like the most gratifying thing for me.
Thank you. Chloe?
Yeah, I think one of my, I think lately I've been challenged on what my idea of success is. I think success is incredibly subjective, and I think probably one of my more successful moments this semester, I guess, has been also challenging my idea of what failure is. And I had a professor talk to me. We were talking about scientific papers and publishing a scientific paper. And he mentioned that he has a little bit of beef with it because only the projects that found something significant get published. But even if an experiment failed, it didn't work or something went wrong, that typically isn't seen as worth publishing. But how much time would that save other people if they were able to find that study, find out that that method didn't work, that there's no correlation, et cetera, you know? I think failure is a lot of times how we end up achieving what we view as success. And so for me, I think it's just been putting one foot in front of the other kind of thing. And some of our biggest challenges, we learn the most. Some of our biggest failures, we learn the most. So kind of seeing those as little successes as well has helped a lot.
I love that, seeing failure as success. And that's hard. That takes a lot of, letting go of some maybe structures you have in your mind, but it can be really freeing. I love that. I'm going to try that this week. Aarushi, there is a question for you actually in the chat, but I think you can all share ideas about this. I think sustainable fashion is something that's becoming more and more talked about. Kind of, we've seen the consequences of this era of fast fashion in terms of climate change and, effects on labor around the world. So I'm just going to read the question for you, and then we can all just kind of share our thoughts. So the question reads, my niece just finished a degree in fashion design from Cal State Pomona and has many concerns about sustainability in fashion. Could you share the name of the site you mentioned earlier, the Instagram site you were discussing? And then more importantly, how would you suggest starting more transformative conversations about fashion and waste? So I think everyone can answer the second part for sure, but go ahead, Aarushi, you can start.
So thanks for your question, by the way. The site is called SUI, SUI, and that's a sustainable brand based in India. And so kind of like I mentioned before, this site is really transparent about where they're getting their fabric from, how it's produced, how much they're paying their workers, who their workers are, things like that. And so it really is like very, very clear on the whole process that it goes through to kind of produce its clothing. So that's a brand I would totally check out. In terms of being aware of kind of sustainability in fashion, something that which I've been working on for the past little bit, is being really wary of eco fashion, especially by big brands. I think there's like this craze now to label things as sustainable or like ethically produced when they're really not. There was actually something with H&M that happened, I think somewhat recently, but basically on their tags of clothing, it would say produced by 90% recycled material. And you would think it would be talking about the clothing, but it was literally talking about the tag, like the little square that you find on the clothing. So marketing is really, really misleading. So I would just say being very aware and doing research into just clothes that advertise themselves like that. And even if you do have to buy fast fashion because it is catered to be really, really cheap in comparison to thrifting or other things, being just aware of what you're consuming, I think, is a really big thing. And then just letting others know about it. My mom loves online shopping, and I've tried to get her to stop shopping off of Shine because that's a huge, really bad fast fashion brand. So I would say those are the biggest things.
Great. I like what you said too, that fast fashion too, so not everyone can afford maybe other things. So recognizing where you are, don't feel guilty, and do the best with kind of your situation. Yeah. Chloe or Muskan, do you have thoughts on the kind of ethical fashion?
Yeah, I think that the conversation aspect that Aarushi mentioned is so critical. I remember when, like I think that thrifting is kind of becoming the trend, which is like great to hear. But I, wasn't much of like a secondhand shopper just because I didn't really know like how to navigate that. But I have so many friends who have kind of like I would compliment their outfits and they'd be like, well, we got this thrifting, so like you need to go. And so they would, take me and show me these places where like sustainable shopping doesn't have to be $200 or $300. Like I'll tell you, this thing is thrifting and it was like $3. So like I think once you kind of like find a path or an avenue that works for you with sustainable shopping, if that is like the $300 jeans, or if that's going to like these bins or whatever, and kind of sifting through the things if you have time, that's great. But then I obviously like extenuating circumstances, you kind of have to do whatever, but as long as you are being, like you mentioned, Hilary, cognizant of the impact that you're having by the clothes that you're wearing, is so great. And yeah, I would just say that like we're currently witnessing this trend into sustainable shopping with these thrift stores. But I actually was hearing last night that there are thrift stores that unfortunately across the nation are not accepting donations anymore because nobody is coming, there's just no space and no one is coming in to buy those, and they're not really sure what to do with all of that clothing. So that's definitely like a topic of interest. So
Yeah, thanks. Chloe, if you have quick thoughts, I'm sorry, I wasn't looking at the time. We got to wrap it up. But if you have a few just quick thoughts. Maybe that's a no, or are you frozen? Okay. You all, thank you so much for this beautiful conversation. I like that we ended on some kind of practical things like in our everyday lives, because sometimes environmental stuff seems so big and so far away. So it was nice to kind of bring it back down to also just something that we can all enjoy. You all are really inspirational, and thank you so much for joining us on this beautiful day. And to those who watched our session too, thank you so much for all the questions. I really am excited to see what comes from you all's work in the next coming years, and just really, really grateful for your leadership for the state of Utah. Thank you so much.
thank you.